Well, hello, that's me again. Today is January 6th, and we have some things to discuss, obviously, which many people are discussing. I do not really particularly give them much, not credence, I mean significance, because a lot of it is actually PR for the most part. But let's talk about it. And we'll talk about this starting from the Washington Post, which published 2 days ago this thing. Actually, not 2 days, yesterday. And they talk about US and Germany will send armored combat vehicles to Ukraine. It was actually published on January 4th, 2 days ago, I was right, and updated yesterday. And this is basically same old, which I'm constantly on record trying to press this issue that Russia doesn't fight Ukraine really in Ukraine or whatever, former Ukraine. Russia fights combined West. But let me put it this way. And this is what many people still do not understand. And I have to stress it constantly. You remember javelins? You know how they performed. You remember those M777? You know how they performed. You remember NASAMS, which was supposed to be again yet another game changer? You can look at videos yourself. There are plenty of them to go around, how they misperform, miss pretty much every single target, and cannot even shoot down properly even slow-flying Iranians, let alone something on the order of X-101 or 3M14 cruise missiles. And we will continue to go about it, and I stress this point again. It has to be kept in mind that this is all about reputational risks. Of course, the United States and NATO, they already pretty much ran out of the old Soviet equipment, which has been collected from all those newbies from NATO, be that Slovakia, be that Czech Republic, Poland, and, you know, they throw this thing into this meat grinder in former Ukraine. It gets obliterated, and now suddenly, although Mr. Putin stated already that we know that the Western NATO countries have weapons, still they face now, NATO and the United States, they face with the necessity to start supplying what is considered in NATO and in the United States, in particular, top-of-the-line weapon systems. I am on record that most of them are not top of the line, but that's the kind of thing which many of them consider that Russia will view as the red line. Yes, Russia will view those as the red line, and as Washington Post actually says that, well, they do not want to send tanks yet. But let me show you what is the second part of this states. As always, Washington Post operates on their anonymous high-level officials. That means probably they made this shit up completely without leaving the studio, whatever the building of Washington Post, and not even talking to somebody on the phone. But still, look at this. The administration continues to rule out sending even larger Abrams battle tanks, which weigh 55 tons. This is immediately the red flag, because even the teenagers who play all those games know that M1 Abrams tanks are 67.8 tons. In fact, some of them above 70 metric tons. So where they pulled this figure of the 55 tons, I don't know. But this is what they say. So evidently somebody didn't do their work properly, didn't go to even Wikipedia, and didn't look up those Abrams tanks. And they, of course, begin to now list the things which allegedly prevent this tank to be sent to Ukraine, and rely on turbine engine that guzzles fuel at the drastic rate, said a second senior administration official. They are also prone to breakdowns and require extensive maintenance expertise. Let me translate this whole thing, which is marked in yellow, into normal human language, apart from the fact that saying that those officials in Biden administration obviously do not know their weapons. In other words, the tank is not designed to fight real war against the real serious enemy, especially the enemy which has the command of the skies. So, and then here it is. The battle tanks are so heavy that then President Donald Trump was dissuaded from plans to include them in 2019 July 4th celebration in Washington on grounds that their steel plate trucks would destroy city streets. And they were standing on the static display, and this is the whole thing about Abrams tanks, which you can easily look it up. I mean, it's not a good tank. It lights like a Christmas tree in the infrared diapason, and it's basically, as you could have seen yourself, for example, from Iraq or even Afghanistan, even RPGs under some conditions, they can actually penetrate its armor. So, and this is kind of continuation of all those things with American weapons, and like it's basically Abrams M1 is the F-35 of the ground, basically. So they now want to send allegedly 50 Bradley fighting, infantry fighting vehicles, whatever they name it. I lost count of how many times all those things have been named and renamed again. So, but Bradley, yes, the subject and the butt of the jokes of the famous comedy, dark comedy called Pentagon Wars, the machine of the extremely high profile with 25 millimeter Bushmaster guns, basically, and two outdated, very old, very obsolete, the TOW anti-tank guided missiles. So in order for survive on the modern battlefield, especially against the modern Russian tanks like T-72B3 or T-90 or T-90M, all of which basically shoot, apart from very decent rounds and very good guns, they shoot through the barrel of the gun this funny looking thing called reflex. It's ATGM, and it has the range which is longer than the range of the TOW missiles, and it's about 5 kilometers. So under any circumstances, Bradley will be kind of a poor man's, just substitution for some kind of tanks, basically to indicate that United States still matters and still can supply something to Ukraine. Obviously now saying that, oh yeah, this is our top of the line. Bradley is a horrible vehicle, has a dismal combat record, and so then French, of course, what we will do without Macron and that great France, they also want to send the wheeled vehicles, which are called tanks, 105 millimeter, whatever gun, whatever the name of those wheeled tanks, also very obsolete basically. So they might create some tactical issues. I don't think so they will change anything operationally, and they will be, as pretty much any American or NATO technology which has been sent to Ukraine, they will be annihilated. They will require obviously more resources to be spent on them, but they will be also killed and wiped out, especially against the background now of the known well-documented breakthrough in Solidar. And basically we have the situation with the large grouping of the whatever is left of Ukrainian armed forces being surrounded there. And again, for people, which is becoming really nauseating. I'm so tired basically about it, but hey, I might as well respond to it. The issue of the Bakhmut, or Artyomovskoye, actually how it was called, is very simple. For anybody who has any brains left, go and look up at the pardon me. Yeah, it's a busy day today, so I had to respond again. So anyhow, the point is that those vehicles are not survivable on the modern battlefield, and obviously when they're outgunned, outranged, and especially when they basically begin to face the Russian method, so to speak, or Russian tactics, if you wish, of the operating the tank units, tank formations from Russia, which of course use this funny little thing which is being produced now in hundreds. It's called Terminator, which is the basically the tank support vehicle. It's based on the platform of T-72, and it is highly armored. It carries the state-of-the-art dual 30 millimeter guns, state-of-the-art combat control system, and of course it has the Ataka, which is 6-kilometer range state-of-the-art for anti-tank guided missiles. So I don't know. So whatever they want to do, okay, sure, let them throw this another batch of the equipment, which will be annihilated. And well, Mr. Biden today stated also that, well, you know what, Patriot performed beautifully in Ukraine. Which, of course, everybody in Russia said, what? I'm pretty sure people who he've been talking about also were like, what? Because obviously Patriot is still not in Ukraine and performed nothing yet there. So, but you know what? Hey, whoever runs the show in Washington, D.C. is certainly not Mr. Biden. It's some kind of the collective Democratic National Committee combination of people. And yeah, so when people say President of the United States, we need to consider him as a collective President of the United States. Mr. Biden definitely is not capable of performing his duties at this stage. But this is what is going on with the issue of the Bakhmut and Artemivsk, which is Artyomovsk, basically. And if those people who want to look up what is the landscape, so terrain there, you have to remember there are huge gypsum and salt mines there, some of them at the depths of 200 meters. And because of that, that takes some time to grind everything basically down, including the armed forces of Ukrainian, Polish, and American, and other volunteers. And this is a repetition of sorts of Mariupol, where obviously they were hiding in the Azov steel plant. And so the same is happening right now in Bakhmut, which is Artyomovsk, and Solidar. But evidently there was a breakthrough in Solidar, and so that thing will continue. And at this stage, it still doesn't matter what NATO or will try to do. Do not forget, there are people in United States, in Washington, those who want to send something, they face the actually huge pressure in terms of the what is called, of course, what I'm saying all the time, reputational risks. And of course, if you want to sell weapons, those weapons better perform. American weapons in Ukraine failed dismally, practically across the board. So you know what? Just another item to be basically discredited as the combat in its combat performance, or rather lack of it. And so, but let's go back to something which was really more important, actually. And obviously the Western media they went bananas, and you can look up everywhere from more or less establishment media to obviously British tabloids, which are basically calling Mr. Putin a mad Vlad, because, well, Russia sent out its latest, well, it's not latest actually, it's first in series, in the series or in the class Project 22350 Admiral Gorshkov on the combat patrol. And significance of that is in the fact that this time Admiral Gorshkov carries Zircon missiles. How many of them are loaded in its specifically 16 vertical launch system, 3S-14? We don't know. Obviously, it carries another 32 VLS vertical launch systems, which are for the air defense missiles of the Parliamentary Dude air defense complex. But Gorshkov went out. And let me show you something. What does it mean? And again, I don't need to say it all the time because I did it before, but Zircon changes, as any hypersonic weapon, changes the balance of power completely, because essentially you cannot stop it. No modern air defense system can stop it, and prospective ones also cannot stop it. It's Mach 9, 1500 kilometer range anti-shipping vessel. It also can attack land. And unlike, for example, the salvo of the less speedy missiles, for example, like Onyx, which is roughly around Mach 3 on its terminal, you have to shoot a salvo, which needs to overcome the air defense of the, for example, carrier battle group. In Zircon, you have only one problem, and this problem is that Zircon performs as basically designed. Well, it performs as basically designed, but we are talking about a technical reliability of the missile itself. So in this case, you usually, one missile is more than enough to sink something like, I don't know, probably 30,000 tons of displacement vessel. And for example, Arleigh Burke class or Ticonderoga class cruisers, they have about between 9 and 11,000 tons of displacement. A single missile sinks a ship like this, I mean, easily. Probably to sink or kill aircraft carrier, probably 2 missiles. So what is the salvo in this case for carrier battle group, roughly speaking? Probably 7, 8 missiles, maybe 6, depending on the circumstances. And Gorshkov now patrolling world ocean with this. What does it mean? Let me show you something. This is the range, for example, of the 2 ships of the Gorshkov class, and not only Gorshkov class. I will show you more ships which carry 3 S-14 VLS vertical launch system. And if you position actually even single Gorshkov class with Zircons, you can see yourself that, for example, it's what is called about northward of the easternmost tip of Norway. You see yourself what happens. That's the range, that's the area it controls with its missiles. Now the same happens, for example, from any Russian frigate of the Admiral Grigorovich class, which comes out of Tartus in Syria, and you can see yourself. Now imagine those circles moving around, and you immediately begin to understand what is this all about. Then many people, like I gave the interview earlier today to lovely Anya, and she was asking this question: what does it all mean? Well, it means that Russia actually is about to fry much bigger fish, and this much bigger fish, of course, is NATO and United States and their navies. And here is what we have in terms of the Gorshkov carriers, which are getting ready to be basically deployed and launched. Here they are. You can see yourself that we have already 3 active frigates, carriers of Zircon. Then you have another, which is actually M, which is 22350M, or upgraded Gorshkov, which carries already not 16 but 32 vertical launch systems specifically for anti-shipping missiles, and 32, altogether 64 vertical launch systems for polymer redoute. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them coming online fairly soon. And then we talk about, which you can see yourself laid down last year, Admiral Guromov and Admiral Vysotsky, which are also this class. So altogether 10 Gorshkov class of the first and second flight. But the worst part for any navies out there, especially NATO navies, is the fact that, as Mr. Rachmanov, the chief big honcho of the United Shipbuilding Corporation of Russia, confirmed a year ago, Russia completed the design of what they called Admiral Gorshkov, this M class, which is going to be much heavier displacement and will carry already now 100 VLS cells, vertical launch system cells, which of them, how they will be spread between the polymer redoute air defense missiles, but we're looking probably at 64 missiles of all kinds of strike missiles, such as Zircon, Onyx, or what have you. And that brings us to the other type of the ships, which are already now available because they carry 3 S-14 for the carrying of the Zircon. And here it is. This is Admiral Grigorovich class, Project 11356, which carry, each of them carries 8 cells specifically for the strike weapons. They carry other 24 cells, I believe, for the air defense missiles. So they are capable of loading basically the Zircons, and those ships operate from the Black Sea and in Mediterranean, basically hanging around the Tartus and Eastern Mediterranean, and you can I already showed you the map. Now, we have already another one. This is a corvette of the project 2385. One of them is afloat and it's specifically designed to carry zircons. Another one is being constructed. Another one is being refurbished after sustaining the fire. So you will have another, probably another 8 of those in the nearest few years taking place in Russian Navy. And of course we have all those other big honcho guys, which are Admiral Peter the Great, Admiral Nahimov, nuclear-powered cruisers, and Admiral Shapashnikov, which is afloat now, which is capable to carry zircons. And when you put this together, by 2024, Russia will have quite a few carriers of the thing, and basically, 2024, this is when the Kazan class submarine, Yasin class submarine, will also go on the patrol, carrying now sub-launched version of Zircon. And I showed you some basically pictures before that. What does it mean? The fact is, I am pretty sure Severodvinsk missile and other class of the Yasin class, they will be all designed to carry their Zircons. So all in all, this is what is basically, let's say, human faces on the high seas. And of course you may say, okay, yeah, when this thing moves and this circle moves with the radius of diameter of 3,000 kilometers or 1,500 kilometers, and it's targeting from Liana and other means of the ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. What's the deal? Well, the United States has an excellent submarine component. Oh, absolutely. So, absolutely. Even when Admiral Gorshkov goes now on, well, it is now, as I speak, on the patrol, combat patrol, and it goes in the Mediterranean, then it will go to the Indian Ocean. Of course, the United States Navy will be sending all its assets to follow this thing. Well, do not forget, Russia has its own very good submarine components, so we immediately get this type of the standoff under waves, and it has been happening as of lately for years now, actually. So this is nothing new. It's good old standoff. In other matter that for the first time, Russia will be basically will be having an overwhelming advantage against carrier battle groups and will be able to sink anything, basically. And any carrier of Zircon, as I already stated, it's a death sentence pretty much to any type of the surface formation of any fleet. No matter how they try to play up, for example, SM-6 missile, it's still nowhere near in capability to even intercept Zircon. And you remember I gave you the calculations that if theoretically, which is whole other story, how the probability is calculated and how the required force is calculated, to shoot down Zircon, to have any chance with any kind of probability which matters, you'll have to expend like, I don't know, 20? SM-6 missiles, and this is theory again. So I've been on record on that. But what is this all about? Indeed, yeah, sure, Russia pushes out all those Zircon carriers, you know, into the world ocean. What does it mean? Well, Russia certainly can attack basically territory of the United States proper. We're not talking about Europe. Europe is done as the military power. But what is this all about? And here it is. If we talk about the war in Ukraine, or former Ukraine, it's, as I already stated, it's war against NATO. It's war against combined West. And in the end, it has the basically some probability of growing into much larger conventional conflict. And fact is, United States wouldn't mind actually that it would turn a little bit into conflict because they want to repeat their famous Lend-Lease and Marshall Plan after World War II. Obviously, they are intellectually and historically illiterate, but that's what they think that might happen. But this is all about this. If United States decides to fight Russia in Europe, this is what is this all about. This is maritime prepositioning forces, or in general, forces, shipping forces required to ship any kind of significant American or U.S. Army ground force anywhere, But as you understand, and when you saw the basically those circles which I showed to you, once Russia gets those pincer movements, so to speak, to close off shipping lanes of communications, well, guess what? Nothing could be done to support or supply or resupply Europe, which is becoming basically industrially pipsqueak in terms of the military-industrial complex. And if the United States decides to fight Russia and initiate the conventional warfare, the deterrent will be that the United States will not be able to resupply its own forces and the forces of NATO. And that's the whole thing. And no matter how many ships the United States will be sending, they will be all sunk. And they do not necessarily have to be sunk by Zircon. You have to understand that every Russian modern ship carries all kinds of other things, for example, which all those major prepositioning force ships and civilian ships, which will be probably used to load some whatever armor, personnel, what have you, equipment, they could be sunk not necessarily by Zircon. Zircon is there to kill the military ships, to kill the naval assets. But you have Onyx, you have 3M-54 and other missiles with also huge ranges, so 800 kilometers, 670 kilometers, which will be more than enough to sink pretty much any kind of maritime traffic. Not to speak about, of course, this, famous Russian, basically submarine component of which I spoke about a couple of videos ago. So when you begin to look at this, it is sort of about Ukraine, but it is obviously about Europe and deterring United States of doing stupid thing, from doing stupid thing. And Zircon is just one of those tools, and that changes the balance of power because you cannot stop it. And that is why there was so much hysteria and so much, emotion, basically, when you read the Western media about basically Gorshkov going on the combat patrol, because some of people there, they do understand what it means. But again, Russia doesn't want to attack United States or Europe. Russia doesn't want any kind of war, but it's the West which conducts it. But hey, and now when they miscalculated yet again, you get what? You get hysteria and media basically lamenting the whole situation. Well, I warned about it long time ago, so don't tell me that I didn't warn you about it. And this is what I wanted to tell you, sadly with being interrupted constantly with the calls, but I had to take those calls. And as always, guys, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on my Patreon and buy me a coffee or two. And I really appreciate your support, guys. This is what allows me to really do what I do. And I hope so you appreciate it, you like what I do. Granted, today it was a little bit chaotic because of the constant calls, but it is what it is. So what I want to say, have a nice weekend coming, and I'll be talking to you later, guys. Bye-bye.